In 1904, the Intermediate Society of Christian Endeavor presented a production of Mrs. Wiggs and the Cabbage Patch, a comedy about a Southern family which is coping with poverty. It's interesting to note that along with the characters and cast members of the play, we also find advertisements solicited to help support the cost of production. In 1904, we see the first record of the Intermediate Society of Christian Endeavors, a CE program targeted at young people between the ages of 13 and 17. Between 1904 and 1905, the membership increased to 140 young folk, the largest in the state of New York. This is a letter inviting young people to join this particular group. Here's the 1914 invitation to the annual banquet given by the young people. This particular ministry started in 1912. Note in these two photos the number of sailor blousers. Although they're not dated, it's likely they were taken in the World War I years at the end of the teens. Although it may have been formed a bit earlier, in 1920 we find the Young People's Ministry that took the form of a Young People's Commission. The members of this commission were elected from the Young People's Sunday School classes, the Christian Endeavor Society, the choir, and the Quaintance Club. The 1920s saw the introduction of numerous activities, some of which were aimed at the larger youth population in the neighborhood and at other churches. There is one particular activity built on the art of talking backwards. Can you guess which one that is? We have a variety of pictures of people and events from this period. And the following is a montage of 1926 newspaper clippings that make reference to events and presentations at LABC by our youth or sponsored by our youth. In a newspaper clipping from 1927, reference is made to the deputation team of Lake Avenue Baptist Society of Christian Endeavor. Deputation teams are defined as a small group of individuals who've been asked to speak on behalf of a larger group or cause. And in another newspaper clipping from 1927, we find that members of the Class Unusual, an older boys' Sunday school class, had participated in an older boys' conference held in Geneva, New York. The annual Young People's Banquet was held on February 24th in 1927 and featured nationally known Christian leader Daniel Pulling. And here is a montage of 1927 newspaper clippings that make reference to events and presentations at LABC by our youth or sponsored by our youth. The annual Young People's Banquet on February 10, 1928, featured guest speaker Reverend A. Ray Petty. And here's a montage from 1928 newspaper clips, again making reference to events and presentations at LABC by our youth or sponsored by our youth. An abundance of newspaper clippings continues for 1929. It was in 1931 that the senior high school department organized an orchestra. This orchestra performed at least once at Fairport Baptist Home. And from February through March 1931, the Senior High Fellowship scheduled a lecture series. And in April 1931, the Senior Christian Endeavor Society presented a play during evening worship. In the 1920s, in addition to the youth ministries already mentioned, there were other activities: the Boys' Work Committee, the Youth Commission, and the Young People's Sunday School classes, all engaged in the work of nurturing the youth of the church. It's also in this era that the Boy Scout Troop No. 53 was chartered by LABC. From 1901 to 1931, LABC youth ministries have continued to be a vital part of church life.